of limited duration relevant to the case under consideration. This is just for public comment about this case. We will save any general public comments you have till the end of the meeting. Can I again have a show of hands of how many people? Where are we time-wise? Okay, you each have a minute and a half, and I really would appreciate if you could stick to that. Ms. Wilson has some sign cards that she'll hold up as you speak, and the man to the left, if you would like to start us off.
Yes, my name is Robert West. I'm from the police 911, and I find it interesting that the taser on the last shot accidentally went off. It seems like there should be some kind of, either the officer intentionally engaged it or something like that. I can't see the police having tasers or weapons of any kind that just accidentally goes off, because you have an apparent risk to other officers, witnesses, victims of crimes, and suspects. So I can't see them having something like that. I could see the officer, after the struggle when the person was cuffed, getting mad and hitting it for a second, just to let the person know that, that the officer's not happy about it. As far as design flaw, well, anytime you put pressure on it, it could go off. To me, that's a serious situation. And if the situation is when they're dealing with a suspect and they have to tase someone, then maybe they need to put the taser away, disconnect it or whatever, so the person doesn't accidentally get tased again. But yeah, my issues, the police shouldn't have tasers that will accidentally tase someone, even for a second. Being tased is being electrified, and that hurts, And so that's, okay.
Thank you. And a quick clarification, just, I think you picked up on it, Mr. West, but this is a count down, not a count up. So when I put 1 minute, that means you've got 1 minute left and 30 seconds left.
Okay, next.
My name is Nancy Newell. I had the opportunity, I was requested to witness a young man who was underage and was accused of resisting arrest. And the first thing that's parallel to this case, first of all, he wasn't told he was under arrest. The police are supposed to, and the judge said, the police are supposed to indicate to anyone that you're interacting with, those words have to be used. That's number one. Number two, the judge called in a separate expert from the police, a very good expert nationally, because it's very controversial, the use of tasers, and gave testimony that was vital to the judge's decision to completely clear this young man who would have had a record and gone to jail for 20 years possibly. So just keep that in mind. And I don't think this is a fair procedure. And I also know that one of the officers here was in a very scandalous story recently covered by Willamette Week.
Next person. Go ahead.
All right. I trust the co-chair will refrain from interrupting me this time. Now then, we have a case in which, as any normal person can tell you, the bicyclist should not have been stopped. The bicyclist should not have been arrested. The bicyclist, what happened here is a militarist police force is enforcing the respect demanded of all bicyclists. Bicyclists must salute and be sufficiently pulling their forelock whenever a motorist passes by. And if they don't do that, then the police will taser you 4 times.
Next.
Hi. I don't ordinarily speak at such things, but I just have to wonder One thing, I'm pretty sure that accidentally discharging a weapon if you're a civilian is a crime. I don't know, I'm pretty sure you get charged with a crime for that. I don't hear any criminal charges being brought against, who is it? Officer A, B, C, I don't know, I doubt that's his name, but Officer B. And also, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a taser expert, but it seems to me like the information that can't be used separately but has to be used in conjunction with other things is pretty vital information. I'm absolutely certain that the highly technologically advanced taser does in fact record changes in the delivery of voltage when it's passing through a human body. It's a big piece of meat, kind of makes sense. And the insinuation that an arc of electricity traveling at the speed of light will somehow administer less voltage if you hold the button down for a shorter amount of time is insane. If you turn on a lamp for half a second, it's just as bright as if you turn it on for an hour. So that is complete nonsense. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, a couple concerns I have on this is when you mentioned you have two different taser models. And I was wondering from Taser themselves if they had problems with any of these certain models they're discussing. Now, another issue I have is that when they kept mentioning volts, does this particular taser measure the volts? Now, I've been hit with a 1.5 million volts, so I have a clear understanding on what that feels like. And I wanted to have an understanding just how many volts they estimated he was being hit with at the time. And the other concern that I had was what made them feel necessary at that time to use that taser? Did they feel he was a threat to them at that time? They had 3 officers, at least that I saw on the video. What made them feel they needed to use that taser at that moment with this individual? I'm still not clear on that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Woman.
Hi. I'm just a little bit concerned. The timeline of the verbal de-escalation with the citizen I don't know how long it took to do verbal de-escalation, but it sounds like he was yelling and throwing things out of his pocket, which I understand to the officers can be threatening, but was he making overt threats to the officers? And were they trying to talk him down as he's visibly angry and upset and showing that with his body? So that was just my...
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really disturbed with the exoneration of a use of the taser and to call it an accident because the officer said it was an accident. I understand that the exonerations that police get over and over are what is causing the escalation of police brutality. Police are murdering people and murdering children by accident. I thought it was a telephone, and so I shot him. And then the police gets exonerated. That makes my stomach sick. It just makes me physically ill to know that all a police officer has to say is, well, I had a hunch that he had a weapon in his pocket. I had a hunch that he was going to get really dangerous. I had a hunch that it was just an accident. It was an accident. No, that is not acceptable. It's a use of a weapon. It's a use of a weapon. You have all the power when you have weapons on you. You have all of the power. If a citizen is yelling, that's not a threat. Being loud is not a threat. And police officers, I constantly hear, and I go to meetings, that they're very threatened by people being loud. We live in a, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a lot of talk about an accidental discharge. These are safety officers, these are officers of law. What's the purpose of the training if they're going to accidentally discharge weapons that are potentially deadly? And has this officer been put through retraining to be able to carry not only a taser, but if he's accidentally discharging a taser, what about his gun? So this, to me, goes beyond just this case. The ramifications are far-reaching. And if this is indeed a training issue or a faulty weapon issue or whatever, first of all, it shouldn't be in their hands. And second of all, if there's accidental discharges going on, that officer shouldn't be carrying weapons where if accidentally discharged, they could have deadly ramifications.
Thank you.
Dan Handelman, Portland Cop Watch. Tasers are recommended not to be used on people who have epilepsy because they're extremely dangerous for that. Mr. Kluge was unarmed.
I have epilepsy.
The deployment of the taser barbs happened from less than 10 feet, which makes them ineffective because they're supposed to spread out. That seems to be inappropriate use. As people have mentioned, the question of whether the finger slipped off the button or whether the last discharge was accidental is all speculative and shouldn't be part of the consideration because we don't know. We just know that you could have heard him screaming on that video. The force directive at the time, it wasn't mentioned, said that the officer was supposed to use the least force necessary. That was in place in 2008, so it was in place then. The DOJ is investigating excessive force against people in mental health crisis. This shouldn't have happened. If you put your tongue in the light socket for a quarter second, 1 second still hurts. And finally, I would say that when you read the rules about what your standard of review is, you should not talk about the information in the file. It's the available information, because otherwise you wouldn't have the ability to send a case back. It's the information that the commander didn't include when they're coming up with their findings. So in the file, those words have to be excised from your